Live from WRAL News headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Some big names are headed to the Tar Heel State ahead of the midterm elections. How Republicans and Democrats hope the visits will energize their campaigns.
Plus, lawmakers for WNBA star Brittany Griner must rethink their strategy after a judge upheld her 9-year prison sentence for drug possession.
Also, local health officials are worried about a triple virus threat this season, one that could heavily impact children. Your best defense coming up. Election Day is 2 weeks from today, and campaigns across the political spectrum are ramping up efforts to get their voters to the polls.
That is especially true in the race for the U.S. Senate between Democrat Sherry Beasley and Republican Ted Budd. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie joins us live from Johnston County, where one event is just getting underway. Laura?
Jeff, we're here at the farm on 42 in Selma, where Republicans are gathering for a Get Out the Vote rally, like we were just talking about. Any minute now, we're expecting the arrival of a tour bus carrying Texas Senator and former presidential candidate Ted Cruz. He'll be headlining an event with Republican Senate candidate Ted Budd and 13th Congressional District candidate Bo Hines. Later on tonight in Raleigh, jam band star Dave Matthews is headlining an event, a free Get Out the Vote concert rally with Sherry Beasley and the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Jamie Harrison. These events aren't really intended to persuade any voters at this point. They're strictly about getting their base voters excited and motivated to go to the polls and cast their ballots. That can be a tough call in a midterm election, and that's why we've seen a pretty steady stream of luminaries coming to the state on behalf of both candidates. Just last month, former President Donald Trump came to Wilmington to support Budd, and today, former President Barack Obama released a video endorsement of Beasley. Now, with just 2 weeks until Election Day, both candidates are trying to make every minute count. We will hear from Budd and Beasley themselves coming up this evening at 4 o'clock. Back to you, Jeff.
Important days leading up to it. Laura, thank you so much.
Now to another battleground state in Pennsylvania. Democratic Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman and Republican Mehmet Oz will face off in the one and only debate in a high-stakes Senate race. Fetterman is still recovering from a stroke he suffered in May. He will use closed captioning to read the questions and answers. Oz has been endorsed by former President Donald Trump and has tried for months to get Fetterman to share the stage with him, saying they should face voters. A CNN poll shows a tightening race between these two candidates, with Fetterman maintaining a slim lead, 51% to 45%. In Florida, voters witnessed a very contentious debate as incumbent Republican Governor Ron DeSantis focused on abortion and the economy. Democrat Charlie Crist accused DeSantis of eyeing a bid for the White House.
Yes or no, Ron? Will you serve a full 4-year term if you're reelected governor of Florida? It's not a tough question. It's a fair question. He won't tell you.
And DeSantis responded by saying he is only interested in putting his Democratic rival out to pasture. The town of Spring Lake is resubmitting its contract to hire Justine Jones as town manager. Earlier this month, State Treasurer Dale Falwell announced he would not fund the hiring of Jones. The town of Spring Lake is financed by the state's local government commission. The town's board of aldermen contends the position is already funded, and it's calling for a review of whether the Treasury has the authority to block the hiring. The town chose to hire Jones, who had her contract terminated by the town of Kenly in August. Spring Lake town leaders say they are waiting for the treasurer to schedule a meeting with them to discuss the situation.
Today, a Russian court rejected an appeal from lawyers for WNBA basketball star Brittany Griner. Her lawyers argued that her 9-year prison sentence for drug possession is excessive. Amy Kellogg explains what's next.
A Russian court upheld WNBA star Brittany Griner's 9-year prison sentence on Tuesday. The 32-year-old athlete was convicted in August of possession and smuggling of drugs. During Tuesday's appeal hearing, Griner appeared via video call from a penal colony outside Moscow. She apologized to the court for her mistake and asked for an acquittal, telling the judge how stressful her 8-month detention has been.
People with more severe crimes have gotten less than what I was given. I did not intend to do this, but I understand the charges brought against me.
Griner was arrested back in February after police said they found vape canisters containing cannabis oil in her luggage at a Moscow airport. During her trial, Griner's attorneys maintained the cannabis was used for medicinal purposes and that it was packed accidentally. They have called her 9-year sentence, quote, unfair.
We think we should use all the available legal tools, but she will be the one who will take the decision.
The U.S. State Department says Griner was wrongfully detained. Both Moscow and Washington have been engaged in talks to bring her home. The Biden administration says it has not received a productive response from Russia so far.
And that was Amy Kellogg reporting. Russian officials have said Griner's release is not a priority for President Vladimir Putin.
Concerns are growing among local college students after a reported sexual assault in a UNC Chapel Hill dorm. A student says a man followed them into the Carmichael dorm on UNC's campus and sexually assaulted them over the weekend. Some students told WRAL the alert sent by UNC police was unsettling and caused for more consistent communication about reported crimes on campus.
I try to keep up with the crime log myself because of that, because I feel like we're not adequately notified. Something definitely has to be done because I'm getting to a point where I don't feel safe on campus, which is sad because, you know, Carolina is supposed to be for everyone.
We have checked the crime log, and UNC police investigated 9 other incidents that were sexual in nature, including 2 rapes in dorms and another at a fraternity house. Chief Brian James says every incident like this is a serious matter.
Doctors say we should be prepared for a bad flu season. They're not ready for a multitude of viruses hitting children all at once. WRAL's Laura Levine is at WakeMed in Raleigh with the growing concerns about a triple threat of viruses.
Doctors are concerned that getting hit by a triple threat would fill up bed capacity and strain hospital resources in the weeks to come. So let's take a look at the numbers. Here at WakeMed, 246 patients have reported battling the flu. That's up from 130 cases just 2 weeks ago. And as far as RSV cases here, 183 people are dealing with that. Now, the respiratory virus is making young children, especially babies, extremely sick, and cases in North Carolina are on the rise. Places like daycares and schools are areas of concern. Doctors at UNC Health report having 200 RSV cases, and as of last week, Duke hospitals had 225. People with RSV may show cold-like symptoms, so fever, cough, fatigue, and headache. Health officials say this, unfortunately, is just the beginning of an active season of viruses on the move.
Young children, you have to be careful for seizures due to high fever, turning blue from not enough oxygen, lethargy, and not eating well.
There are currently no vaccines for RSV, so doctors say the best protection is staying up to date on your flu shots and those COVID-19 vaccines. They also mentioned we should continue to practice some of those methods that we have had in the past during the pandemic, such as hand washing, social distancing, and masking. Laura Levine, WRAL News, Raleigh.
This afternoon, President Biden is taking a new step in protecting himself from COVID-19. He's getting the updated booster shot. So far, about 20 million Americans have gotten the updated vaccines. They're designed to combat COVID-19 variants, including Omicron subvariants. The CDC says 4.5 million Americans got boosters last week, the most in 1 week since the fall vaccination push started. The White House hopes more people will follow the president's lead.
The Wake County School Board's Policy Committee will meet this afternoon, and the district's new equity policy is again on the agenda. The district is working to develop a new policy it says will help educate students who've been historically marginalized. The policy would be specific to the county, as there is no corresponding policy within the North Carolina School Boards Association. Improving low-performing schools is the goal for the Johnson County School Board today. The board is holding a special meeting tonight, just 1 day after the nation's report card showed learning loss in our state trending in the wrong direction. Schools under the spotlight tonight include West Smithfield Elementary, West Clayton Elementary, JC Virtual Academy, Smithfield Selma High, and South Smithfield Elementary.
Happening now in the Live Center, firefighters are on scene of a building explosion in Cleveland. Take a look at this. This is live video happening right now. They say the explosion resulted in a fire and a partial building collapse. You can see all the rubble there, and that home in the back, the fire spread to that home there. They say the incident began as a fire in that auto repair shop, led to multiple explosions. No injuries reported at this time. More than 50 firefighters are currently battling this battling this blaze right now. There is a school right across the street, but they sent out a message to parents saying that your kids are safe. Do not worry about it.
Next at noon, running for her life. Video shows a Florida girl running from a possible abductor. How a man tried to get this girl more than once.
Also, the tourist attraction in our state where a man fell to his death. What we know about the tragedy on Grandfather Mountain.
Plus, a Fayetteville woman claims police violated her civil rights. At 12:30, Gilbert Bays joins us with what she's saying about the incident. Elizabeth.
And it started awfully foggy this morning. We're beginning to see some sunshine in a few places like Durham, but not everywhere. We'll talk about when the clouds will clear and how warm it gets this afternoon. Coming up.
Download the new WRAL streaming apps on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Android TV.
Police in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, released home security video they believe shows a 10-year-old girl running from a suspected abduction attempt. The video shows her running down a sidewalk and a man rounds a corner and follows her briefly before turning back and leaving that area. Police say this is the second time this suspect has tried to abduct the same child. Last Wednesday, he allegedly tried to lure her with candy, money, and other items, which she declined. He tried to grab her and she ran. The child reported both instances to school officials, but police didn't get a report until Thursday after the second incident. Avery County Sheriff's deputies say it appears a man died from an accidental fall at Grandfather Mountain. The 53-year-old man from New Hampshire was reported missing after being seen on the mountain. The sheriff's office says he was on a hiking trail and went to one of the park's overlooks toward the top of the mountain with his sister when he fell more than 100 feet. It took crews about 45 minutes to recover the man's body from the bottom of the cliff. Nearly 300,000 people visit the popular destination every year.
King Charles III met with his second leader of the UK today as Rishi Sunak formally became Britain's prime minister. The former finance minister said mistakes have been made in the past and to correct them, he would place economic stability at the top of his agenda. But there are still challenges ahead.
I will work day in and day out to deliver for you. This government will have integrity, professionalism, and accountability at every level. Trust is earned, and I will earn yours.
NBC's Kelly Kobiea reports from London.
Well, yet another Conservative politician is in charge of Britain, the third Conservative prime minister in just 7 weeks. His name is Rishi Sunak. He took over from former Prime Minister Liz Truss this morning after an audience with the King. Sunak is the country's first prime minister of color. His parents, a pharmacist and doctor, came to this country in the 1960s from India. He's also the youngest prime minister in 200 years, at just 42 years old. He attended some of the country's best schools, including Oxford. He also attended Stanford and worked as an investment banker for Goldman Sachs. He was the finance minister under former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and he was largely credited for saving millions of businesses and keeping people employed during the COVID pandemic. But he had to spend billions to do it, and he now will have to make drastic cuts in order to balance the books and try to get the economy back on track. Sunak, like his predecessor Liz Truss, was put in place by members of his own party, not in a general election, and his political opponents are already calling for a general election now.
That was NBC's Kelly Kobiea reporting. With no election until January 2025, many British voters just hope Sunak won't be as bad as his predecessors.
Hurricane Ian is gone, but the damage it caused will be felt in Florida for a long time. Preliminary damage assessment for agriculture losses from the storm could be up to $1.8 billion. Officials in Florida report that Ian damaged citrus trees, forestry, and infrastructure. Total losses for citrus producers could reach $675 million. The storm hit southwest Florida last month as a Category 4 storm. Locally here, we could just see the crops through some of this fog that we had all morning long. It's lasting into the noon hour as well. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with that look from the top of southeast Wake County.
And it's still hanging out there in some parts of the viewing area. We are very, very slowly seeing it start to erode from west to east. So what you're looking at here, of course, is still this dense, not thick, but a very dense deck of low cloud cover that's sitting over the triangle area. If you see this area where it looks a little bit darker before it turns lighter blue, that's actually that's the back edge of it. So that's where we're clearing. So already seeing sunshine across Durham and Chapel Hill, and that is starting to move through the western part of Wake County right now. So here's a look at the visible satellite, and you can see right here, that's the back edge of the cloud cover, and it is very, very slowly eroding. But I mean, it is slow to move on out. It really looked like the computer models had us clear by lunchtime, and that is not the case everywhere. But right here in Raleigh, we're starting to see that back edge of those clouds. We're seeing that up through Granville County, back into Fayetteville. Fayetteville's nice and sunny. And I mean, it is the haves and the have-nots. Where we have skies clear, it looks absolutely beautiful. But this is a very dense deck of low cloud cover that's still sitting over about half of the viewing area right now. We take a look at what's going on. Here's a look at Raleigh, and you can still see those gray clouds, but starting to thin a little bit. 59 degrees. It's been very chilly around the areas that continue to have all this cloud cover. But in Chapel Hill, look at this. Absolutely beautiful. We're seeing sunshine, just a few little puffy blue clouds, and then we'll head down south to Fayetteville. Same story. Fayetteville is in the clear. So we're looking at completely clear skies here and 61 degrees. And we just cleared recently in Fayetteville, so those temperatures are going to start to warm up very quickly. Officially at RDU at 65 and partly cloudy, but right here in downtown Raleigh, that back edge hasn't quite moved through yet. So we'll see those temperatures warming up. With sunshine this afternoon, we should still make it into the mid 70s. So it will be a very quick warm up once that sun moves in. Look at the difference here. It's 68 in Southern Pines where it's sunny, 68 in Roxborough where it's sunny, but 58 in Clinton and Goldsboro where it isn't sunny, and 57 there in Rocky Mount and Wilson. So big difference where the sun is and where it isn't. And look at the 24-hour temperature change. You can just look at the contours. You know, you can see the yellow contours here, but we're running anywhere from, say, 3 or 4 to as much as 10 degrees colder than this time yesterday, just because of that dense layer of cloud cover. Again, expect temperatures to start to climb this afternoon, mainly mid to upper 70s, and tomorrow's going to be nice and warm too. We'll have some cloud cover on and off, 82 in Fayetteville and Clinton, but 73 in Roxborough, where of course it is up to the north and will be a little cooler. We have a cold front that's actually ahead of it, going to push this warmer air in our direction, so temperatures will start to climb tomorrow, mid 70s to low 80s. Once the front moves through, temperatures will settle back to near normal, and normal this time of year is actually upper 60s. So for the Halloween weekend, Friday and Saturday, 68, Sunday, 69, and then we're going to watch a cold front that will be approaching, and that front is likely to bring us some showers potentially into the day on Monday. The question is, how quick will this move in? I'll show you the timeline currently on in our models on Futurecast in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Coming up tonight at 5, one couple's journey through cancer. Learn how a 73-year-old woman became aware of her breast cancer risk and what she did to catch it early. And later at 6.
It's one of the hottest apps, but what exactly are you sharing via the TikTok app? Coming up, the privacy settings you should adjust right now.
Plus, still on this newscast, a new report is giving us a look at how people are adapting to pandemic-related changes, how people are changing the way they interact after COVID-19.
Also, YouTube is rolling out a new look to give viewers a more realistic experience. The changes that are being rolled out over the next few weeks. The McRib is getting a farewell tour, and Apple is raising prices on its popular music and TV services. Those are among today's business headlines with Maribel Aber.
Apple has hiked prices for its music and TV streaming services. An Apple Music subscription just went up $1 a month to $10.99. Apple TV Plus is now $2 more at $6.99 a month. The annual price for both, along with the cost of the Apple One bundle, was also increased. Apple says the price hikes are due to the higher cost of licensing music and the bigger selection of content offered on Apple TV Plus. Beyond Meat is rolling out a steak substitute called Beyond Steak. The meat alternative will be available in Walmart, Kroger, and other grocery stores nationwide. And it comes packaged in bite-sized pieces, with a 10-ounce package costing $7.99. Beyond Steak has 21 grams of faba bean protein per serving and no cholesterol. The product launch comes as Beyond Meat has seen sales slide. The company's stock is down 80% this year. The McRib is getting a farewell tour. McDonald's says it's bringing back the popular sandwich for a victory lap starting October 31st. The fast food chain tweeted the news yesterday. No word on how long the McRib will stick around, but McDonald's says to get one while you can and, quote, enjoy our famous pork sandwich as if it's your last. And those are your business headlines. I'm Maribel Aber at the NASDAQ market site.
A new international survey is shedding some light on exactly how connected people feel and how they connect with others. Researchers say most people around the world feel a sense of social connection as COVID-19 precautions ease, but many still need support or help from others. At least a third of participants said they interacted with others on social media on a daily basis. Overall, friends and family living nearby were the most common daily connections for people in all 7 countries surveyed.
Don't be surprised if YouTube looks a little different the next time you log on to the platform. YouTube is rolling out a new design that it says will make your browsing experience easier and more enjoyable. The features include changes to the app background color, which will match the video you're watching. Other changes include modifications to dark mode, which will make colors more vibrant on screen. YouTube says users will also be able to fast forward and rewind to exact spots in a video. The messaging platform WhatsApp suffered a major outage this morning. There were 75,000 reports of outages today. The cause is unclear. The company behind Facebook also owns WhatsApp, and it says the issue is fixed and apologized for the inconvenience.
A 22-year-old woman files suit against the city of Fayetteville and the police department. The video, she says, supports her claims against the officer.
Plus, recycling can help the planet, but only if the right products actually get recycled, what some say needs to be done to make a measurable impact. First, here's a look at your winning lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Lawyers representing Jelena Dunlap filed a federal lawsuit in Fayetteville this morning, claiming their client's civil rights were violated by police.
Dunlap is the woman who was pulled from her car and placed in handcuffs for refusing to give police her ID. WRAL Fayetteville reporter Gilbert Bays is live outside the federal courthouse after speaking with Dunlap and her attorney. Gilbert.
That's right, Renee. You know, we broke the news, WRAL did, several weeks ago that this lawsuit was coming. And as you mentioned this morning, the attorneys representing Jelena Dunlap came here to federal court and filed that suit. Let's take you back here a little bit and explain what this is all about. Dunlap is represented by several attorneys, including civil rights attorney Harry Daniels. Now, it all stems from an incident in September recorded by Dunlap on her cell phone. She was taking pictures an employer asked her to take in a vacant lot off Pamela Drive when the officers approached. They were looking for a violent felon who had escaped their custody about a half mile away. Now, Dunlap gave the officers her name, even spelled it for them, but refused to hand over her ID. And that's when things got heated, and she was pulled from her car and placed in handcuffs.
Demanded her ID, and she refused, well, her right, because North Carolina is not a stop, and identify state. That's been clearly established here in the state of North Carolina, and she was under no duty to identify herself, let alone give ID. When she refused to give the identification, they demanded for her to get out of the vehicle.
Now, Dunlap spoke briefly during the press conference. She recounted some of the events during the incident, but she says she had no choice but to file the lawsuit because she filed a complaint with the Fayetteville Police Department 2 days after the incident, and that complaint went unanswered. Now, lawyers say her civil rights were violated. They're seeking an unspecified amount in damages in the case. Now, there was a hearing this morning also about the body cam footage that was being worn by the officers this morning. That request to release that video came from Police Chief Gina Hawkins. And Renee. We're hearing that the judge is going to release that, and if we get that, we'll include that in our reports later today.
We will wait to see what that body cam video shows. Gilbert Bays, live in Fayetteville. Thanks.
A car dealership has some cleaning up to do after a fire. Crews were at an auto parts warehouse in Cary for 5 hours until after 2 o'clock this morning. Michael Grace was in the WRAL Breaking News Tracker with a look at the damage.
That fire broke out of the warehouse just up that hill right behind me around 9:15. Take a look at this video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker. You can see crews trying their best to ventilate the building inside with all that smoke, with those fans that they have there. And this all happened on Gregson Drive. Officials say the building's sprinkler system was able to contain the flames. Luckily, no one was inside at the time of the fire, and crews were able to wrap up just after 2 a.m. I'll keep you updated into the investigation into what caused the fire. In Cary, Michael Grace, WRAL News.
Fire crews in Durham are trying to figure out how a fire started at a house there. It happened on Clarion Drive just before 11 last night. When firefighters got there, they saw fire coming from a side door of the home. 36 firefighters were on that scene and managed to get the fire under control in about 10 minutes. The house was badly damaged, heavy fire, smoke, and water. The 2 people who live in that home were able to get out safely.
With 2 weeks to go before Election Day, it is crunch time on the campaign trail. All indications are that races for U.S. Senate and governor in several states are tightening. Caroline Shively reports that's putting an even brighter spotlight on the debate stage as candidates make their final push.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Buckle up. There are at least 4 big political debates around the country tonight. And if the Florida governor's face-off on Monday is any indication, it could be a wild ride.
Ron, you talk about Joe Biden a lot. I understand. You think you're going to be running against him. I can see how you might get confused, but you're running for governor.
I know that Charlie's interested in talking about 2024 and Joe Biden, but I just want to make things very, very clear. The only worn-out old donkey I'm looking to put out to pasture is Charlie Crist. Most polls show Republican Ron DeSantis maintaining his lead on Charlie Crist in Florida. But the Fox News power rankings out today show possible upsets for incumbent governors in New York and Oklahoma, with 6 states still listed as toss-ups. The Senate is also listed as a toss-up, with Republicans predicted to take control, but just barely. The House is a different story, with Republicans expected to take the majority by 16 seats.
Republicans ahead, Democrats ahead, Republicans ahead. But it's going to close, I think, with seeing one more shift. Democrats ahead in the closing day.
And that was Caroline Shively reporting. President Biden has mostly been off the campaign trail. A recent NBC News poll shows his disapproval rating at 52%.
In less than 2 hours, nearly 200 state employees will be honored with Governor's Awards for Excellence. In total, 184 people from 8 state agencies and 3 UNC system institutions will get that recognition. The Governor's Award for Excellence is the highest honor a state employee can get for dedicated service. The ceremony is happening at Meredith College at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and Ken Smith will be the host there. What can make it harder to spot breast cancer on mammograms? The action the FDA is taking to give women better options.
Plus, 90% of the plastic waste in this country is never recycled. How companies are trying to address the problem of plastic pollution. Remember, you can watch WRAL News live anytime on WRAL.com or the WRAL app on your streaming device. And welcome back. You are looking live at our Hive Fives. Yes, these are beehives up on our rooftop, doing our part to help save the bee population. They're so important to our ecosystem. You're watching WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Hope the bees are doing well. New developments following the report that linked hair straightening products to an increased risk of cancer. A cancer survivor in Chicago is telling her story. NBC's Charlie Wojciechowski reports on the woman's lawsuit against a company that makes chemical hair straighteners.
I'm 28 years old, and I was just diagnosed with uterine cancer.
Jenny Mitchell had been using chemical hair relaxers and straighteners for more than 2 decades by the time of her diagnosis. Now, after a full hysterectomy, she is experiencing menopause.
I'm still feeling that void of not being able to bear my own child.
Now Mitchell is filing suit against L'Oreal, one of a number of companies that make chemical hair straighteners and relaxers typically marketed to African American women.
I don't think it's an exaggeration. 95% of all black women use these chemical relaxers. Just a survey. How many of you have ever used a chemical relaxer? Show of hands.
Last week, a study released by the National Institutes of Health found that women who use chemical hair straighteners face a higher risk of developing uterine cancer.
It makes me nervous because I am a person that use, straightening products and chemicals as well.
Trish Crowder is a Chicago area stylist who's been working with straighteners for almost 30 years.
I have experienced, some of my clients with, some issues going on.
In addition to the lawsuit, which was filed here in Chicago, Crump is calling on the U.S. government to pull all hair straightening products off the shelves. Trish Crowder says the study and the lawsuit are changing the way she thinks about using straightening products.
Just to stay away from it, just go natural and wear your own hair. It's something that I'm going to do, and I'm definitely going to just be a natural stylist.
That was Charlie Wojciechowski reporting. The FDA is planning to release new regulations notifying women of better screening options for breast cancer. Mammograms sometimes will not detect tumors in some women with higher breast density. And a report says more than 40% of women in the U.S. have high density breast tissue. Women with that type of breast tissue can require additional scans to help detect tumors.
First Lady Joe Biden and Grammy Award-winning entertainer Mary J. Blige teamed up for a special event with the American Cancer Society. Their focus was to encourage women of various socioeconomic and racial backgrounds to prioritize their health by screening for cancer early.
I'm here today as a Black woman who is passionate about using my platform to encourage other women to prioritize their health, namely their annual well women's visits, mammograms, PAPs, plus HPV tests. That's why I've dedicated a great deal of my time to increasing awareness of the importance of preventative screenings, reminding people that their health is their wealth, and urging them to make it a priority.
The topic is an emotional one for Blige, who has lost several family members to cancer. The Biden's Cancer Moonshot Initiative hopes to cut the death rate from cancer by at least 50% over the next 25 years. You know how much plastic is actually recycled? The answer might shock you. We'll look at the pros and cons of a possible solution to help less plastic wind up in landfills.
Plus, when a new study reveals about the impact of working longer hours at high-stress jobs on our mental health. A new report from Greenpeace claims recycling plastics is a losing battle. The environmental group says its research shows most plastic simply cannot be recycled. The report found American households generated about 51 million tons of plastic waste last year, and only 2.4 million tons were recycled. Researchers say several issues are at play, including the difficult process of recycling and the toxic materials in the process, in the plastics.
Renee, recycling can only help the planet only if the right products actually are getting recycled. Jackie Ibanez has the shocking numbers highlighting the plastic catastrophe and a look at a possible solution.
In the U.S. alone, more than 90% of plastic waste is never recycled, according to data collected by the Environmental Protection Agency. Besides being burned or winding up in the environment, much of it is deposited in landfills, where it takes plastic bottles, for example, roughly 450 years to decompose.
It's going to take a multi-generational solution to fix.
Now, some of the companies making up the plastic industry are advocating for more chemical recycling facilities to combat the crisis. The process involves using heat or chemicals to convert plastic waste into a liquid. The substance is then turned into recycled pellets to make new plastic products.
We bring in typically about 100,000 pounds per day of used plastic, and that converts into about 10,000 gallons of hydrocarbon liquid that can go back into making new plastics.
But critics worry chemical recycling won't reduce the amount of plastic being produced and used. In fact, a United Nations report finds global plastic production is expected to more than quadruple by 2050. Activists are also concerned about the emissions chemical recycling plants can produce and the potential harm they pose for surrounding communities.
What kind of value are we setting up for ourselves and for our community?
As Jackie Ibanez reporting, 7 small chemical recycling plants are currently operating in the U.S. Eastman, ExxonMobil, and other companies have announced plans to build larger scale facilities in the near future.
An ecological graveyard is spreading across the East Coast, including in North Carolina. Miles of gray dead trees called ghost forests. Ecologists say these ghost forests are caused by seawater creeping inland, killing the trees. Experts say they are spreading at an alarming rate because of increased salinity in the water and more frequent flooding. Both are made worse by rising sea levels.
They're a good indication that climate change is happening right now and it's happening right here. So we know that this is happening and that it's getting worse and that it's likely going to continue to get worse.
Scientists say it's not too late to stop this troubling trend. Some areas are at least temporarily preserved by wetland restoration efforts. Well, the trend this morning was foggy conditions, but I can see at least one bright spot, Elizabeth.
And the sun is appearing behind you as well there over Dix Park. Finally starting to see that back edge moving on through. Apex certainly nice and bright. A few puffy cumulus clouds popping up. We have still, of course, a good bit of moisture in the atmosphere. So those sun's rays, as they warm up the surface, they're sending a little bit of heat back up into that moist atmosphere, creating some of those puffy cumulus clouds out there. But looking beautiful, and temperatures will be warming up very quickly everywhere that we're dealing with some sunshine. We take a look at Clinton. On the other hand, Clinton, of course, still stuck under the clouds. Temperatures are much cooler here. We're struggling to even get out of the 50s here in Clinton, where we still have the cloud cover. And this is going to be one of the last parts of our viewing area that does end up seeing the clearing. So it's likely to be middle of the afternoon, and temperatures are really going to lag behind there. This high pressure system, though, sitting here, and it may continue to help our erosion process. Certainly it will continue to help warm things up once those clouds, that deck of low cloud cover, moves on out. This is the next thing headed our way, and you can see some rain with this front. As a matter of fact, it's fairly significant. This line of storms even developing along that front. But what's going to happen here is this low is going to continue to trek up toward the Great Lakes, and a lot of the energy and a lot of the moisture will go along with it, so that when the front comes through here tomorrow, that moisture will be pretty limited. We're going to wake up tomorrow morning maybe to a little bit of fog and low cloud cover, but we should see partly cloudy skies on and off. Notice here the potential for a quick shower in the morning before the front arrives. That's likely to be closer to lunchtime in the Triangle, and then closer to 3 or 4 o'clock in our eastern counties, from say Rocky Mount to Goldsboro and Wilson along and east of I-95. That'll happen around mid-afternoon. And then after that, we start to see some clearing during the late afternoon and evening. Temperatures should be mild, even though typically, like today, we've seen very chilly temperatures where we've had that deck of low cloud cover. Ahead of this front, we're going to see a good solid southwesterly flow. That's going to warm things up. Then everything looks nice and quiet from there all the way until, say, Sunday. Here's Saturday morning with clear skies. Sunday looking pretty good too, but in the afternoon, some clouds roll through. The big question is, what is it going to look like on Monday? Will we have rain during trick-or-treat time? And you can see this is a new run of the computer models, newer than what we saw this morning, and it does start to push a little bit more rain in during trick-or-treat time. So right now it looks like a fairly small chance of rain with a mild day, but we'll keep watching it very closely. Certainly our temperatures will cool down over the weekend. We could bounce back up to 75. The big question is, will the kids need their raincoats? We have a lot more days of computer model runs to watch between now and then.
We'll be watching, Elizabeth. Thank you. They don't call him Skip Man for nothing. The amazing record a Filipino athlete set, he says, to inspire his people.
And here's a look at your winning Powerball numbers: 18, 23, 35, 45, 54, and the Powerball is 16. The multiplier is 4.
And a live look at the WRL Gardens right now. The sun has finally broken through right there. We saw the Hive 5 on top of the building earlier. Now you see where they live and pollinating all those beautiful flowers out there. We're wrapping things up this noon for you with a look at a few of the headlines we're following for you today. Election Day is just 2 weeks away, and today, Texas Senator Ted Cruz will be in North Carolina. He'll be headlining an event with Republican Senate candidate Ted Budd and 13th Congressional District candidate Bo Hines. Also tonight in Raleigh, jam band star Dave Matthews is headlining a free Get Out the Vote concert rally with Sherry Beasley and the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Jamie Harrison.
The town of Spring Lake is resubmitting its contract to hire Justine Jones as town manager. Earlier this month, State Treasurer Dale Falwell announced he would not fund the hiring of Jones. The town's Board of Aldermen contends the position is already funded, and it's calling for a review of whether the Treasury has the authority to block the hiring.
Concerns are growing among local college students after a reported sexual assault in a UNC Chapel Hill dorm. A student says a man followed them into the Carmichael dorm on UNC's campus and sexually assaulted them over the weekend. Some students told WRAL the alert sent by UNC police was unsettling and called for more consistent communication about reported crimes on campus.
Working more hours at a stressful job can lead to higher chances of depression. Researchers in Michigan found that people who worked 90 hours a week or more had 3 times higher risks for depression symptoms compared to those who worked 40 to 45 hours a week. Researchers say employees who worked for more hours a week had scores high enough to be diagnosed with moderate to even severe depression. Now, if you're worried about how much time your kids spend playing video games, a new study may give you some peace of mind. Research sponsored by the National Institutes of Health found that gaming may help children with cognition. The study found kids who play video games 3 or more hours a day do better on tasks associated with memory and impulse control. Gamers in the study also had higher levels of activity in parts of the brain associated with attention and working memory. Other studies have had similar findings, but this one involved the largest group of children to date.
An athlete in the Philippines sets his second jump rope world record. Guinness World Record awarded Ryan Alonso one more time after he finished 3,731 straight crossovers. This high-intensity move is done by crossing the arms in and out while skipping over the rope. Check out some of these tricks he's got. Wow. Alonso's previous record was set last year when he performed nearly 41,000 double under skips in just 12 hours time. Imagine the kind of shape you have to be in cardio-wise to keep skipping the whole time.
Yeah, way to set a new record. Raleigh voters will see a parks bond on their ballot at $275 million. It is the largest in the city's history. Today at 4, find out what that money would cover and what it means to your taxes.
WRAL News will return at 4. You can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL app. But the sun has come out. Looking forward to a great day.
It's going to feel nice. Thanks for spending a little time with us. Have a great day, everybody.
Want more news and weather? Coverage continues across all major streaming platforms using the WRAL app and on the radio at 99.3 in Raleigh and 96.5 in Durham.